they are. The rescue diver can then move around them, and they can't easily move away. That's actually a real advantage. And then you know where those divers are and you know what they're up to.
We've heard mention of this idea of sedating, the possibility of sedating the buoys to calm them down. Is that something you've ever come across in a cave diving, or you've heard of in a cave diving rescue?
No, I haven't personally. I don't know. I suspect anybody that's sedated in any way needs careful management. And okay, I understand why people might have said that, but obviously that gives you an additional problem, because not only have you got to monitor them breathing and all the rest of it, you've got to worry about them medically as well. You know, whether you've done that in the right way. So it's not anything I've thought of or seen, but I can understand why people think it might be a good idea.
Stephen, finally, obviously water pumping and drilling has been going on around this whole site. Would that have added a lot of weakness to the mountain range and the cave system? And I presume some of the pumping would have taken place. Would you be happy as a rescuer to go into a system like that, knowing that that had taken place? Or, you know, does the weakness add a real risk?
No, I mean, the mountains in where those caves are, it's all limestone. I mean, it's like Swiss cheese. It's been there for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years in the form that it is. It's not going to fall down. It's not going to be affected by drilling or pumping, certainly no more than water affecting the system in the normal sequence of events throughout a year. So no, that wouldn't worry me at all.
Okay. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Whitlock, it has been fascinating. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, a lot of reaction from around the world taking place. As we heard, and as I've said earlier, this is an international story, an international rescue operation as well. And we're hearing now from the US, in fact, from President Donald Trump, who will be visiting the UK next week. He's tweeted saying the US is working very closely with the government of Thailand to help get all of the children out of the cave and to safety. Very brave and talented people. Must add, of course, that there are other countries involved in this rescue, including the UK, the US, and Australia, and the Thai people themselves, of course. You're watching BBC News. Those pictures you're seeing there around that rescue site at the cave entrance. Now, earlier, I spoke to our correspondent, Nick Beake, who's outside the Chiang Rai Hospital, where we believe the boys will have been taken to.
We've seen 2 ambulances race into this hospital. We don't know who exactly is inside, but we know that 3 ambulances left the cave complex, which is probably about an hour away from here, so they race along the road to this point. I can tell you, our best source at the moment for what is happening is probably the Thai Navy SEALs, and on their Facebook page they have been providing regular updates as to what's been happening. Remember, they are the people who've been in the cave. They're the ones who've been taking videos and posting it of the boys who have been trapped. They say that 4 boys at this stage have been brought to safety from the cave complex an hour from here. So that is the word from them. Lots of other reports whirling around at the moment. We can't say for sure whether they are accurate, but certainly what we know is 2 ambulances here, and as I say, 4 boys brought to safety according to the unit, the elite unit, which has been spearheading this operation.
Nick, what are the primary concerns for the children's health as they're brought to the hospitals? Do we know what sort of plan has been put in place?
Well, the officials here, the doctors and nurses, haven't been speaking publicly about what they have been planning here, but clearly they've had some time to prepare for this. They know exactly how many people they need to be treating potentially. Also, remember that ever since the boys have been found at the start of last week, they've had a doctor with them who's been able to assess their medical condition on an hourly basis, you would imagine. We heard the officials here in this part of northern Thailand say this morning that the boys were strong enough, they were mentally fit to embark on this rescue attempt. So clearly a decision was made to go with this relative break in the weather to try and embark on a successful rescue. So in terms of how the individual boys will be treated, we haven't got that information at the moment, but clearly they know the ages of the boys, their conditions over the past week or so, and so you'd imagine there is a tailor-made plan for each of these young footballers, as hopefully they all emerge to safety and they're treated here and ultimately reunited with their families.
And that helicopters, we understand, Nick, that helicopters had been put on standby. That was one of the plans in terms of getting those boys to hospital as soon as possible. Why is it then that they've used ambulances?
Well, I think there's probably one for the medical teams. They would have been doing dynamic risk assessments, as they call it. We imagine that the boys probably were assessed after the first and hardest part of this rescue attempt. That was the stumbling block, really. The caves are so narrow, flooded in parts, and they were really concerned that they'd be able to bring the boys safely through these winding, very narrow passageways and corridors. They were probably assessed after that first point, and a decision made that they would continue with the rest of the rescue operation. As for helicopters, clearly they're a much quicker option, but if a decision was made that bringing them here by road was the best option, they've gone with that clearly. We did see a helicopter take off earlier from the site. Not yet clear who was in that and what sort of role that was playing in this rescue operation.
OK, that was Dan Johnson. Now, what we can see here at Tam Luang is the local governor of the province. We are working on getting a translation to find out the latest, the very latest regarding this rescue operation. But just to let you know, when he first sat down and started speaking, we were able to hear a huge cheer from the press gathered at this press conference. So as soon as we know in terms of numbers and the status of the rescue operation, we will update you. But what we can tell you is that 90, sorry, my fault, I do apologise, 90 divers are currently involved in this operation. 50 foreign divers and 40 Thai divers involved in rescuing these 12 boys and their coach. They have been in that cave system now for almost a fortnight. They were in there from June the 23rd. The latest confirmation we had was that 4 of the boys had exited, had managed to be rescued, rather, from that cave system. We're not too sure what condition they were in when they came out, but what we can confirm is that part of the medical plan that had been put in place showed that those boys would have been put in ambulances. We saw the ambulances leave that rescue site, and they, we understand, have been taken to the local or the district hospital in Chiang Rai, and it's the Prachanuroka Hospital. It's about an hour's away by car. They did also have the option of using helicopters. There was an ambulance for each boy, a number of helicopters on location as well, but the weather hindered that extraction to the hospital, so they were taken by road. We understand in terms of choosing which boys to get out of there first, they took the weakest of the boys. So the first boy reportedly left that cave at 5:40 local time. The time now is 10 to 9. Now let me just put that into local time BST. So we got news of that first rescue just after 1 o'clock British summertime. So a lot of analysts are saying that this rescue has actually taken place a lot faster than anticipated, a lot faster than we'd been told. We'd expected the first of the boys to be brought out of there by 3 p.m. and that is British summertime. So here we go, more ambulances moving around that site at Tham Luang. In terms of the rescue itself, I mean, those boys would have had to travel underwater diving for about 1 kilometre. It's not all underwater, but it's the route that was treacherous that caused the most concern, because at times they would have had to remove some of that kit, and we're talking here about the divers themselves, because the boys would have been attached to the expert divers by a breathing line. So the divers not only would have had to watch those boys to ensure that they were calm, they did not panic, because that is the greatest danger, to bring in those boys out alive, but they also had to make sure that those air tanks were passed through these narrow passages carefully. The boys were then brought through, the air tanks reattached, and the rescue would have continued. There would have been a couple of stops on the way where they would have been allowed to walk, they would have been checked over before they would have continued towards the entrance of the cave itself. Now, getting in there, some of the statistics, it would have taken around 6 hours. Remember that they're going in there with a lot of equipment. 6 hours for the rescue team to get in. They would have been walking, they would have been swimming and diving as well. The estimation is that it would take about 5 hours to get the boys out. So the confirmation, if you're just joining us here on BBC News, is that 4 of the 12 boys that have been trapped in that cave system in Tuam Tam Luang cave in northern Thailand have been brought out. I'm optimistic, I'm going to say safely brought out, but what we do know is that they have been taken to a hospital. Rescue plans were put in place, and also plans to get those children straight to hospital. In terms of the logistics and the rescue team, an incredible 90 divers are part of this rescue team. Remember, you need the divers themselves, you need support divers as well. 50 foreign divers are involved from around the world. President Trump has tweeted saying that the US, of course, are supporting events taking place, the rescue operation in Thailand. 40 Thai local divers are involved. But in terms of moving on to the next stage of the rescue workers, we understand, will need up to 10 hours to prepare for the next stage of this operation. So there could be a pause in events and further news coming out, but we understand that from one exit of boys to the next, a 10-hour gap is needed for the rescue team to prepare before they can go back in to bring the next team of young boys out. You're watching BBC News. Stay with us, more coming up.
Be one with innovation.